All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of Car Talk. I'm your host, Big Mike, right here with
Ryan Bossery from Rywire.
you guys. We are going to do a follow up, part two of the You Asked, We Answered What is Going On in Our Car Lives episode because, like everything we do, we want it to be thorough and we feel like the last episode kind of only touched on certain things. And so we're going to just do another part because you guys asked and we like to answer properly, thoroughly,
Very, very thorough.
thorough. So Ryan,
Yeah,
let's go.
let's go.
Right. So, what's going on in your car life right now?
Right now, let's see. So with the shop, we're coming out with a new rear-wheel drive specific K-Series harness.
Right.
That's really it's very, very, very close to being done.
Hell yeah.
We'll have the first run is around 100 pieces. So they actually, I think, are going to fly really quick. So I'm hoping that they just take off and everybody wants them, and hopefully turn 14 buys half of them.
Sure.
And then
I might get a couple for.
we get to run another batch. But that's really cool. So I'm excited about that. And then also all the cars in the back of the shop.
Yes.
So cars in the back of the shop.
I always talk about this, how to this day, sorry to interrupt, that people still think, for whatever reason, that Ryan and Rywire just do Hondas and Acuras. And one of the vehicles back here is a present day example on how that hasn't been true for years.
Yeah. So
Right.
one of the vehicles that we're working on currently. So let me just preface this by saying that we don't even work on cars.
This is
Meaning we don't really work on clients' projects.
Right.
And I know that sounds like maybe a little snobby or something, but take it the way that you want to take it.
well, there wouldn't even
But
be enough time.
There's not. There's not enough time. I have to be hands-on with a lot of these projects, and I don't have the time to do it. This job that I'm about to describe it's kind of a favor. What it is it's a pre-runner off-road truck, and I'm actually not allowed to take any pictures of it.
Right.
So it's
right.
Is the right word embargoed? Is that
Yeah,
how they-
embargoed.
Essentially, it's embargoed. But I don't even know who owns it. It was actually just given to me by another wiring shop that had
Oh, yes.
so many that he couldn't. And I'm like, he's like, charge me whatever you want to charge.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know what? This is interesting.
Sure.
It's been a while since we've done any pre-runners or any off-road buggies or anything like that. So we took on this job, and it's an LS3 powered crate engine. It's a mid-engine, so the engine's actually in the back behind the driver, which is not too common for these pre-runner trucks. But I mean, it's basically if you guys seen trophy trucks, it's the same kind of thing. It's maybe slightly smaller, maybe a little bit less expensive, but I'm talking it's still probably a half a million dollar truck or something like that.
I mean, you guys know trophy trucks. That's not even where they start. They start, beyond that. So this is,
trophy trucks million
yeah.
or something.
So
I
this
don't know.
is
It's a lot.
randomly half that, and it's a cheaper version which is crazy.
But barely. I mean, it still has sensors all over the place. The chassis are completely all boxed in, just thousands of hours on each chassis.
yeah, they're pretty cool, man.
Pretty cool.
They're pretty damn cool.
It's a Motec powered car, so it's a Motec ECU with 2 Motec PDMs. This one's a little interesting. It has power windows, which is very not common for this kind of a truck. I think it's more of it's something where I'm just guessing here that it was an old race truck
Okay.
that somebody bought, and then they were like, we want to go racing, but we want to have it a little bit more like a luxury.
Sure.
So there's a stereo system in it with an in the amp subwoofer. It's the funniest part is that I've never wired a stereo system before.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
That is.
to think that.
I mean, well, that's just not what you do.
I know, it's just not what I do. So then I'm looking, and it's funny because David, my office manager, our buddy David,
Yeah.
he actually knows more about that stuff than I do.
Yeah, because
So
yeah.
I was like, David,
Yeah.
you need to come back here and you need to tell me what the hell I'm doing. He's like, all right, well, that's he was explaining what, this is a crossover. You need this for the highs and the lows. And because we have a 6x9.
Yeah.
I know what 6x9s are. and then like a 5 or 6 inch speaker
Yeah.
in the door. It's so random. I'm just like, what am I doing? This is
Yeah.
like an off-road truck.
Yeah.
But then the guys like they want to have like everything. The truck's it's a obviously somebody that's very well off that wants a racing off-road vehicle,
But that has comfort,
but
creature
still wants some
comforts.
creature comfort. It's very
So the
strange.
power windows, an audio system, and an alarm.
Yeah. The alarms for like the windows to be able to roll down and then jump into the truck through the windows or something because there's like I don't even know if there's a side step. I don't know. I'm just like crawling over this thing. I'm like all up in the back and there's like these trucks are funny because they're all fans. I'm talking
Right.
coolers and coolers and coolers for coolers and coolers for other coolers. Like it's fucking crazy. I can count really quick. You're talking three coolers, three fans and one cooler in the front, and then kind of up in the front there's four more fans. So that's already three, four,
I
five.
mean, what are we
That's
talking
already
about?
that's already 7 fans in the front.
I mean, okay, oil cooler, transmission cooler,
Yeah, V drive cooler because it's a rear
diff cooler,
diff cooler. Obviously,
radiator.
yeah, oil radiator. It's crazy. And then in the back there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more fans. So there's a total of
But
1, 2, 3, 4, 5 coolers.
okay, but like
Oil, water, yeah.
there's 1 to 5 fans on a core
There's up to 3 fans per
per
core.
core. Because I've gone and looked at it, but I've from a distance because there's so many other cars back here to look at.
It's a little messy. Yeah.
Well, it's about to clear up.
Yeah.
It's about to clear up, and then there's another really cool project. Okay, so the truck, and what else are you working on?
Aaron's CRX.
The CRX?
So the CRX that's in all the videos.
Yeah,
and
that's
stuff.
on Ryan's personal YouTube channel, the white one.
Yeah, and that one's kind of just on the back burner right now because Fred from ATS FCB, Fred Chapman built the infamous ATS Fred. He has the engine, and it's in Northern California right now, and he's doing the whole Cerakote deal.
Yep.
He's taking it slow because he's having some like family stuff.
Yes.
So we're just letting him work at his own pace.
Yes.
I mean, Aaron has other fun cars, and I do feel bad because it's like we're delaying a bit.
Sure.
But Aaron's got plenty of cool stuff that he's into and doing right now. He's building out a shop space for a not for cars, for a storefront.
Is he designing it, or it's his?
It's a very cool design, yeah.
It's,
Well,
is he the design?
He rented a facility.
Yes.
This is Aaron, okay? Aaron rented a facility, collaborated with this brand called Little Giants. It's called Little Giants.
Sure. Oh, for the kids' clothing.
Kids clothing.
Yes.
On the East Coast. He's the West Coast branch,
Okay.
if you will. Opening up a storefront. Super sick modern design. He designed the whole thing.
This is the customer
Yeah.
who owns the white CRX that Ryan's building.
So he has a lot of
stuff
going on.
He's not worried about it.
He has his 911 that's air cooled that he's working on and that's he's doing the Cars and Coffee events and kind of stuff like that. Just having a lot of fun with that car. So I mean it's not a huge rush, but I do want to definitely get that engine back soon so we could drop.
So you got the truck
just gotta
project, you
drop
got the
it in.
CRX project.
So that's the 2 projects in the back.
Mhm.
There is also the EVS 2000.
Yes.
So I guess we could kind of touch on that a little bit. There's been some hurdles as far as my time,
Yeah.
but got the car driving for the event.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me kind of like step back and say the order of what I was anticipating and then what really happened. So the event was 2020. What month is that? December? When was it? November? I'm so bad with-
No. Turn 14. Period. Correct. Debut of the EVS 2000 and dying Chris's car.
Yeah, so
Whatever.
Look
Couple
it up.
2.5, 3 months ago.
2.5. Let's just call it 2.5 months ago, right? So 2.5 months ago.
Damn, we're old. We can't remember shit.
I don't remember anything anymore. I can't remember where I parked my car. Anyway, so like never. I can't remember anything. Anyway, so the event was probably 2.5, 3 months ago, something like that, and got it done. You know, it wasn't done. A car's never really done, right? I got it drivable and working, and a lot of the kinks ironed out.
Yes.
Okay. Realized that afterwards. Okay, so the original goal for let's call it the event was beginning of December, end of December, kind of through Christmas. We're not working quite as much. The
Okay.
hours are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come into the shop a lot of the days that the guys are off, and I'm gonna knock out certain things on the EV car. I
Yes.
was gonna add my air conditioning system. If you guys
Yes.
notice any pictures, the air conditioning system wasn't finalized. I wanted to add my battery heaters, okay, and finalize all that, like mount them and just like get it done. Like they're already kind of pre-wired,
Yeah.
so I just literally had to make a mounting plate and just plumb the water through them,
Yes.
hook them up, like not very complicated.
Yes.
Um, a bunch of little stuff to just kind of knock out for December. And what ended up happening is
Right.
I kind of got into it, and I called in BC Moto to help me out a bit on the project for like some of the calibration and stuff like that. Because there's with the system we have these battery managements, and the battery managements are so vital for the
Mm.
entire system to just make sure that the batteries aren't getting too hot. If they get too hot, if they don't charge evenly, there's all these things that are it's crazy sensitive. Okay, so the battery management system makes sure that all those systems are under control.
Yes.
They're not running away with heat and stuff like that. So because we got to dial that in, there's a lot of CAN bus communication through it. BC had already had experience when him and I were working on his car,
Yeah.
and he spent a lot of overtime hours doing complex CAN communication stuff. So he kind of had it all dialed in already.
Okay.
He's like, yeah, let's just like I can make quick work of your car, so I'll tag team it with you. All right, cool. So he comes in and he's like, hey, the battery management system is like not happy. I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, let me look into this, right? So basically, it was like, I'm not going to sit here and waste your whole day. Go ahead and head out while I deal with all these issues. Okay.
Okay.
So then I started looking into it, and I'm like, wow, these batteries are fucked up. And I'm like, looking at them, and I didn't fuck them up.
Yeah.
I only drove the car like just around a bit,
Yeah.
less than a mile of driving the car after that event.
Sure. Sure.
So I'm like, okay, what happened? Um, it looks to me like when you pop, I basically dug into the batteries. I lifted the plastic lid off of it so it reveals all the cells,
Yes.
and they're all like burnt up.
They're overheating, literally.
I don't know. Okay, so it's more actually, I believe what it is corrosion. So because the Chevy Volt packs are shaped in this like T-shaped design with like a run of batteries and then a run of batteries this way,
Yeah.
there's a service brake switch. So halfway through for safety, you disconnect the switch that has a fuse in it,
Mm-hmm.
and then you isolate half the pack. So,
Yeah.
you split it up so it's a little bit safer to touch and work on
Yeah.
for like technicians or whatever. Now, because the Switch is worth, a couple $100 on the resale market because there's an expensive fuse in it,
Okay.
I'm assuming that LKQ, definitely not happy with LKQ, but LKQ,
Switched them.
no, they just took it out and probably sold it and then left the packs outside
Okay.
for an extended period of time. I'm talking when I looked at the information on the batteries, they could have been on their site for almost 2 years. So probably just sitting outside in the environment, letting all kinds of water. I mean, they looked trash when I got them. I was like, oh my god, really? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is what I paid like $4,000 for this pack, right? Used, and I get it, and I take it all apart, and it's all dirty, and I'm just cleaning everything up. And actually, in the video, you could see like, oh, I'm like my first pack. I'm like, yeah, there's something weird with the voltage. I said something like that. When I was testing it, a couple of the packs looked really low,
Mm-hmm.
and then I kind of like charged it up, and then it seemed like okay, it's at 300, and it was at like 365 volts, and I was like, cool, the
Yeah.
voltage is right. So I guess it's kind of like false alarm,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So that pack is the one that I popped open, and I mean I'm talking like all corroded, like all
Mm.
fucked up. So not even the corrosion. Like in theory, I could wipe off the corrosion,
Right.
but what the problem was is that you have all these little let's call them like Capri Sun packets. Okay,
Yeah.
that's like these kind of batteries. What they're called is like a packet style battery. So they're basically like 3 volts each, and then they're all chained together. So these little Capri Sun packets, if you will, have 2 little wire leads on them essentially, and they go up to a plug at the top.
Yeah.
And that plug at the top is for the battery management to be able to dive into and grab that cell data off of all the cells. So if you guys know what continuity is, when you take a multimeter and you take the 2 sticks together and they beep because it's
Yes.
connecting a giant loop,
Yes.
right? I should then be able to, once I reveal it and I very carefully touching all these, cells,
You should have continuity.
I should be able to touch the positive of that cell. My meter's on continuity, they beep together, and then I should be able to touch that cell tap, it's called, that
Yes.
header plug, and it should have continuity. And a lot of them do have continuity, but several of them don't. Okay? So I'm like, great. This pack is pretty much effed because I need those and I can't properly fix that.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So because I can't fix it, um, I don't really know what to do at that point. So what I did was I said, you know what? This car is very valuable to me, and yeah, like $3,000 to $4,000 for a battery pack is a lot of money, and I could use that in theory for like maybe something that doesn't need a battery management system, like a storage system for like an off-grid power wall.
Okay.
They still have value, is what I'm getting at.
Sure.
So I was like, whatever. I don't have time to deal with this shit. Like LKQ was completely unresponsive. One of my friends actually like, I saw him take over LKQ's Instagram at SEMA. So I hit him up, our buddy Jason, and he was like, "Yeah, I know people at LKQ. Here's all their information." I'm like, "Damn, thanks, dude." And then I hit up all those people at LKQ. They're like, they don't give a fuck.
Okay.
They're like, take it up with this place and whatever. You have to have it in a car. They have to go to you have to bring your car to a service station. The service station has to say that they are in fact bad, and then that service station would have to send them back to. It's fucking ridiculous. Anyways, so I was like, forget it. I bought another pack on eBay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Got another pack, and they were far better, but still had a couple connection problems with the cell taps.
I see.
I'm like, dude, why the fuck
Is this happening?
is this happening to me? I'm
Yes.
spending like $3,000 to $4,000 per pack,
Yeah.
and they're shit. And it's like, I reached out to a bunch of people that run these batteries.
Okay.
Right? This guy John, he's like big into these batteries. There's this local guy that I talked to, big into these batteries. They sell them on eBay. They break them down. They do things, whatever. They use them for charging station stuff. They use them for their cars. I reached out to a dude in the UK that I know that uses those batteries.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All of them are like, I've never had any problems like you're describing. And
Wow.
I'm like, dude, I'm not retarded. Like, there should be continuity from the top of that cell.
Yes.
And they're different per pack. So it's not like that there's some consistently inconsistent thing. This is literally a random no continuity issue. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I need to. There again, a month went by because I was just dealing with all this. I got to get this car on the road.
Sure.
Okay, I got to get it out there. I want everybody to enjoy it, and I want to get miles on it, and I want to drive it.
Sure.
So I was like, literally, this is what I'm gonna do. I took a piece of wire. I stripped it.
Yes.
Okay. I placed it onto the top of that cell,
Okay.
and I used this really like very very sticky tape,
Yes.
and I taped it onto the top of that cell.
Yes.
And then I ran the wire up to the top, and then I ran that to my battery management system. So I basically just bypassed and hardwired the cell tap.
Yeah.
Okay? And it worked in theory because the battery management system is happy. Okay? BC gave me this tool. I plug it in. It sees all the voltage. Everything was happy.
Right.
You're supposed to use this before you plug it into the actual battery management system. Anyway, so we plugged it in. BC came back. BC comes back and he's like, everything looks great,
Except.
but you have 2 cells that are way too low in voltage and the other one that's way too high in voltage. And the low one is not that big of an issue because if it's low, you're talking a 3 volt Capri Sun pack. Okay,
Yes.
3 volts. So it's down here. The other one is 5 volts. There's only sorry, it's three. It was 4 volts. So you're talking 1 volt, maximum three, and then it's at four. So he's like, well, I don't even know that it can be at four. Like that would be like way too high. Why is this at four? Because you could charge the one up, but you can't charge the other one down. So we reached out to Orion, which is the BMS company,
Yeah.
and they're like
Battery management system.
the battery management system company,
Yeah.
Orion or Orion or however you want to call it, wherever you live. They said, listen, there could have been some kind of an issue where a fuse could have blown internally because of the voltage.
All right.
And I'm like, okay, so what should I do? They're like, just for the peace of mind, send it back to us.
Okay.
So I sent it back. They confirmed that they received the battery management unit back, maybe 2 weeks ago, a week ago. So I'm expecting it back any day now, and I'm going to basically get it back.
Have they got it? They told you they got it, but they haven't given you a report.
They haven't given me a report.
Okay.
I'm assuming that I'm going to get a report when I get it back,
Oh,
or
understood.
maybe I'll get a report and then they'll send it back. I don't know, but it's still just like kind of up in the air. I mean, I'm sure that they'll be able to take care of it for me, and they might even be able to tell me like what I need to do to try to get that cell in check.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? But that's where I'm at with it, and it fucking sucks, dude. There's this other guy that I saw on YouTube, that I casually would look at his thing, and
His build.
his build, and he did a swap in like this little kit car, and I was like following it like a little bit, and he was having all kinds of issues too, but with his controller. So he has
two
a different
issues.
two like completely opposite kind of things, because mine's a battery management system, you know, in that realm problem.
Yeah.
And then his is literally like a Tesla drive unit controller problem, which I've had no controller problems at
Interesting.
all.
Well, just like the guys you hit up in the UK that are like, I've never had any of those problems, and that guy's not having your problem, and you're not having his, and other people are like, we are not having any problems.
Yeah, or they're not disclosing problems.
Fair enough.
They could be having a whole slew of like, butt connector, wiring harness, crimp connector problems or something. That's the kind of stuff that I'm not having issues with. But yeah, so
that's kind of an interesting thing
because it's
because
so new. There's only like it's a community of it's like back in the day, like some of these communities,
right.
like K swaps in like 2003. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
so
Like,
so that's because I was aware of the setbacks, but broadly, right,
Yeah.
very generally. So now it's pretty interesting, along with you guys, to understand much more specifically why, it's having some issues, and then because it has to take back seat to customers' cars and
Yeah.
projects first.
I'm like working on it like on nights and weekends kind of thing.
So that's an interesting thing. I would like to say that in some kinds of ways, I'm having setbacks like that with some things that I'm doing.
Go ahead and say it, Mike.
That's far more technical, and but what matters is that one of the things that we've always tried to drive home. I've always tried to drive home specifically is that like nobody can really do anything alone. Okay, there are people who can do everything, but at the rate that it would take you to finish that everything, whatever that everything may be, it would be kind of almost silly because a two-person team could theoretically do it up to 2 times faster. 3, 4, 5. When you have a network of good people or businesses or whatever, this is applicable to your friendships, your social circle, everything. When you are able to work with good people who you believe in and who believe in you, the possibilities become exponentially greater, and you can do a lot of things. So Ryan has partners and stuff like that, but there's also stuff that you're not really connected with, but it's still if that part doesn't work in the network, it has a domino effect, right? And I'm experiencing some of that too, in that a small network that I work with occasionally. And if I were to work with anyone or anything within a project, it would be this small network, and on purpose, because I believe in good people. I believe in small business. I believe in supporting small business, and loyalty and things like that. But I'm kind of in a position right now where, because of personal ethics and personal belief systems, I feel almost forced to not work in the same network right now. And I'm being broad on purpose because it needs to just be about the principle. And, you know, it, it's difficult for me, not because of the work that is not getting done, because that's in and of itself a problem. But that's not the main problem to me, because the work can get done. You put in extra hours, you do it when you don't want to, you cancel something else. So you can theoretically make up for the time, albeit exhausting to do it that way. But that's still not even what it's about. It's about having to decide if, because of a personal belief, that you can't work with someone or something inside of a circle that you've worked with, because they're they're just doing things that you don't agree with on a very profound level. And that's I have a series of projects. Well, when Ryan and I were talking about some of these things do not just come to pass. Sometimes it's years, months at a minimum, but sometimes years in the making, because it just takes that much effort. But then when you get into it, you've got things going, and you're relying on each other. It isn't as simple as, well, I can't do that right now, because you are directly affecting the other people in that network or in that project. Now, apply that to anything, you guys. Apply that to anything. But right now, where I am personally, it's very difficult for me, because I care about the people I work with. I care about the network, and it exists because I appreciate and value them. And to be in a position to observe things happening that I just cannot, I don't believe that I can be a part of that, even indirectly. Just being, it's almost like I don't even want to be witness to it. And no, I'm not talking about something criminal or fucking felonious. I'm not. But for me, principles, ethics, are just the same thing as a law. Like, if I was talking about I don't want to witness a crime being committed, principally, it's the same thing. It really is. And so I'm torn right now, because aside from the domino effect that's happening with all of these projects, like if Ryan and I were creating Car Talk mentally and then verbally, and then kind of trying to piece out how we were going to force time to make it, and then one day he was just like, yeah, I just can't do that right now. Regardless of whatever the reasoning was behind that, this really wouldn't be here for you guys. I would probably have taken it up and just been, with you guys. But it's not the same, of course, right? There's a design and a fluidity, a continuity that exists. And if you don't have both parts to that, it isn't just one side that suffers. And you can justify or rationalize or explain why, but it doesn't change the outcome. And that other parts of the puzzle, other pieces of the puzzle, and all the timelines and everything related to that network's growth are just fucking stunted instantly. And so for me, you guys, the philosophical one, me, the thinker, apply that to anything. It's not meant to be vague, because the specifics don't matter. It's the principle. And so that is where I'm at. I'm stalled because of the way that I designed or envisioned a timeline and a project evolving has been forced to not occur. And I think that there's no coming back from that in a certain way. So you have to just take the whole thing and decide to go laterally this way to then be able to move forward because you're at a roadblock. And that roadblock is someone within the network. And even if they don't mean to, that's what happens when you team up. Is that if some part of the team, regardless of how that came to be, if they can't contribute, the whole thing is affected.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Have to, right?
I mean, like, I even have a project right now that I haven't really talked about, and it's in that same exact roadblock stage.
You are equivalently fucked.
Equivalent.
Yeah. Well, and it's weird because it is, but yet it's also entirely different, but the effect is the same.
I actually have 2 projects that are like that.
Oh, yes.
It's like
somehow, somewhere, somebody who's part of it just cannot or will not or both, and it doesn't just stop there. The whole thing gets fucked for either a moment or for a long time.
That's why it's important to have all your ducks in a row and your community tight. Because, like, I mean, for the project that I'm thinking about, there's stuff to be done, cars to give back to the owners. There's things that if I have any sponsors or people that affiliates on board, their return on investment is just shit. It's nothing.
And what ends up happening is for something that, in this sense that he's talking about, if that part of the network doesn't ever come through, it doesn't affect them.
Yeah,
it affects
they
you.
They don't care. Yeah.
And that's the same thing that's happening to me. And, you know, for those watching, you guys, the reason why I'm keeping it vague is because I have this personal saying. It's not personal, it's principle. And this is about the principle. This is about the real life effect, practical real life effect of what happens. And, you know, so that's right. I knew, as soon as you said the one, I knew. But I forgot about the other one. And so this is kind of what happens, you guys, is because you cannot do everything alone. And if you can, it would take you a time in which if you were to be in a team, or if the team of people over here are doing the same thing, they're going to not just finish first, they're going to finish first and then maybe have finished another or a third before you do, if you do it all on your own.
If you can do everything on your own, you're not going to be 100% at every
Each
single
part,
thing.
Right. And so, you know, like I, you know, I you guys can tell that it bothers me, right? It bothers me from a perspective of someone who cares. If it was just business and just numbers and just ROI, you can find someone who's like, well, I want to be a part of that and I'll take it and I'll do it for less or something like that. But that they're not part of the network. They're not the person you know and have worked with and care about. So the loyalty stuff makes me feel fucked. Because I'm like, in every numerical measurement, I should just be over here. And I even kind of like that shopper person or piece of the puzzle. But I'm over here because of history and appreciation and loyalty. And what do you do when that cog, that gear, that part of the machine just stops? Do you wait till it starts again? Do you fix it? Or do you replace it? You know? It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, you have to really like evaluate if there's another option. You have to evaluate if there's another way and what it'll cost you to just wait versus what it's going to cost you to just change.
Should just change.
And if you even can change, because sometimes these people that are established in this niche of whatever they're doing, you've never had to look elsewhere because they've been solid, or that has been a solid. It's always been solid
in what you're building,
and then now all of a sudden it's not. Mm-hmm. So then, like, how do you still make progress?
With the example that he just brought up, it's put you back a year.
A year.
This is one personal project for Ryan. And
it's one of my 911s, my old one.
And the whole project, because of one part of the network, for whatever reason, it doesn't matter on his end in the sense of he's behind a year.
I thankfully don't have any major commitments yet. with the car.
Right.
But the reason why I don't have any major commitments is one, because of this hurdle,
Right.
and then two, I kind of knew better than to like
Mm.
start too early.
So there was some foresight, because if there wasn't, you would be fucked.
Yeah, because I haven't really worked with this person at this capacity before. And then now, I'm very grateful that I didn't like make any commitments with any businesses
Yes.
for a return on investment, because I would be in a bad
Oh yeah.
situation right
Oh
now,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or I would have had to just take an L and find somebody else.
Right, but to make that more clear is that sometimes you could go and find another replacement, but the burn on your reputation, on your proposed ROI,
Yeah.
your proposed timeline, your basically your promise, there would be a very real like scratch on the surface of your reputation to these companies. And our industry is so small that sometimes there's no coming back from that, um, fair or unfair. And so, there you go. Like, I'm keeping mine more broad, but it's really the same kind of thing. It's like you have other pieces of the puzzle and you are directly affected. So I'm having a very difficult time with that. And once again, this is all within the question that you guys presented, which is why we're having a part two, is what's going on in our car lives. So this is car life. I'm not even going all personal and social. I'm talking about this is car life. But when you have worked with, so luckily for you, you haven't worked with that person before. So in the context of like personal connection, it's that particular factor is not there.
Right.
Whereas for me, it is,
Yeah.
and that's very meaningful to me.
It's different.
It's
way
different. When you care about someone. So that's really kind of what's happening, is that I have a lot of the stuff you guys see, builds, or content creation. It takes a lot of time to get it to a point to where it looks like it's easy. It's kind of like the builds we do. There's a whole lot of work in certain details, one little detail or a whole section or whatever. There's a whole lot of work, money, time, planning, effort, innovation, trial and error, right?
To maybe make it look
To
like
make
it's
it look
nothing.
like it was like, oh, that's easy or that's simple, right? And it wasn't. And sometimes that's applicable to other things, and that's kind of how it is now. Like everything we do, we do it from a place of authenticity, but as nice as that is, it still takes time, effort, and money, etc. And with builds or with everything, there's a timeline leading up to it, and if that timeline is affected, everything connected to it gets affected. So that is really kind of where we are. I know that there's going to be some kind of progress on my personal YouTube channel. You guys, you will see it there. I'm excited about it. I'm sad. I'm sad and excited, interestingly, at the same time. But as far as the content, I have 3 different vlog series coming out for you guys. I have this behind the scenes type series. All of you guys who follow me on Instagram, I've been doing that on my IGTV. I did that with Ryan, Freddie at Auto Fashion, Daniel Wu from Into the Badlands at SEMA with his car, and periodically the whole BTS thing, the behind the scenes thing. Oh, Raul with Checkered Sports, um, Nicholas Higgins when he had a Super Street thing. So I really always wanted to take my ability to shine the light on someone else. Instead of it being about me, I wanted it to be about them. So even Sam Du with his car at the Eneos booth at SEMA, it's like, Sam, your whole thing with Super Street is to shine the light on other people's builds.
Yeah.
Can you give me 30, 45 minutes? I want to shine the light on you specifically and yours.
Yeah.
So that's my whole thing, right? I feel very blessed to have the ability right here with Ryan and Car Talk, and also in all these other things where I've, been in front of the camera. I'm switching it around to put the focus on others. So I've got a BTS behind the scenes vlog series where I'm going to shine the light on good people and small businesses. That's my way of supporting small businesses. So you guys get to know what happens behind closed doors and the person or persons that control and create and run that small business. So that's the BTS series. And then I have a build series that is going on. I've got a build that I'm doing for a client, And this is a very good kind of client because they don't care so much about how long it takes. It's just the outcome. So in that sense, pretty cool because those are rare. Usually people just, I need it in a month, I need it in 6 months, and they're on a budget. This particular client doesn't particularly care how long, nor do they really care how much. They just want it to be done and done well. And so I'm excited about that. And then I have another vlog series that is going to debut and unveil on my personal channel. So three different things. And the Think Bigger podcast, my personal podcast, is also going to start to introduce a video element. So instead of just being an audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Spotify, Apple, etc., there's also going to be a video aspect to the podcast. I have some major guests, right? Major guests. And I'm excited about that. So all of that stuff, is what's going on in my/our car lives. So once again, as I mentioned before, we appreciate that personal type of question. And I don't know if you necessarily wanted that in depth about what's going on with me, with the EVS2K. I don't know if that's what you guys wanted, but we appreciate you asking. And like we're raw and authentic and we're thorough. And that might have been a little overly detailed, but hey, that's just what we do.
And I mean, you watched till the end, so thank
Here
you.
you, that's a good point. You're here. So we appreciate you. And we'll see you
Next time.
on another episode of Car Talk.